I walked out of a substitute teaching job today less than an hour and a half in. Millennials, I gotta ask, how are we raising kids today? And I say we because I fully acknowledge that I am an elder millennial.
Mm.
Every kid is entitled to a bad day, right? No, in full disclosure, we got off to a rough start because when I got there, I didn't have any subplans yet. But then one of the other teachers across the hall was kind enough to print them out. But then when I got them, there were things like I've included the link here and here's the MP3. But I did not have access to a computer. And when the other teachers informed the office that, I didn't have a subcomputer because I've never had a subcomputer, they in fact did not send one up. But it's not my first rodeo. And so I follow the plans that I can. And the first thing is like, oh, make sure they do the lunch tally and then have this student take it on a sticky note down to the office. And I say, okay, student, you're supposed to take this down to the office. And I have like kids telling me, no,
Mm.
no, I did not have an attendance book or anything like that, so I didn't even know what their names were. So when we meet in the circle on the floor, I'm like, hey, so let's go around and you tell me your name and like your favorite food. And there's a kid who just won't tell me their name. And there was a group of kids who would not stop addressing me as bruh. Bruh, you can't make me do that. Bruh, come on. That is not funny at school. One kid got stepped on and had to go to the nurse. Another kid threw up. And then another kid was sitting at their desk eating tiny Lego pieces, or at least putting a good number of them in their mouth at a time and then spitting them out on the desk.
I think it's really interesting how, in a generation of women who make fun of men for being in a loneliness epidemic, and by the way, shout out to this teacher. You know, I have a soft spot for teachers. I think that they're very important. I had some great teachers. Unfortunately, they're dealing with a lot of difficult young people. And this generation's difficulty is a bit different, at least when because I wasn't like a class act student either. I had my problems, right? I would get sent to the office once in a while. I would get sent to the office, right? There's some consequences. If it happened, it happened. I didn't argue. I didn't make a big deal out of it. I like to tell jokes. I like to talk, right? Here I am now. But if you think about it, the same people who probably complain and really shrug at like this male loneliness epidemic, and they highlight that more than the actual men who they claim are lonely. They kind of set themselves up to deal with the consequences. What do I mean? Well, you complain about young men, and they're the most unruly in these classes. I've reacted to multiple teachers who've quit because they can't get children to respect them as they teach. A lot of the times, these are female teachers, and they're dealing with young boys. In most cases, these boys don't typically have a father, right? And they talk about how disrespectful they are. And I'm thinking to myself, most teachers today are women. I think we probably need more men in schools. I remember the few male teachers I had, I really respected. Yes, I respected the female teachers as well, but the men, I'm just going to be honest, they, it's different. Right? It's different when you have a male teacher. What am I trying to say? You look around, breaking homes, dismantling the patriarchy. Being a man is shunned left and right. And this is not just in the black community. And sometimes I wonder, like, where do people get this idea that this mindset is only in the black community? I really think that, like, maybe it's the algorithms with these social media platforms are just so good that people don't see that these conversations are being had in other areas as well online. But this is happening, right? And the men who would otherwise get those young men together in class, in school, they're divorced and not really available at home. Young men, especially, have to fear a male role model to an extent. Otherwise, they'll fear their prison guard, right? And you might be wondering, well, why did you jump straight to prison? Because stats say that when a child doesn't have a father, they're more likely to go to jail than they are to go to college. So all this matters. It all ties in together. And I think people have these conversations about unruly kids who don't listen. And there's really a root cause to all this. And it begins at home. And if you probably saw how the household was maintained and the lack of father figures or discipline in that household, then you would understand. Let's keep listening.
Special, one of them just wouldn't go, wouldn't get up from their desk. Just just wouldn't do it. Now, you might think with the attitude that I was given that these were like seventh or eighth graders,
Right.
or you might think that with the behaviors they were like 5 year olds. No, no, this was nine. They were nine. I drove over half an hour to get there this morning, and I made my own children walk over a mile to get to their own school. And about an hour and 25 minutes in, I walked that classroom down to their special, walked into the office, and was like, can't do it. Bye.
Another one bites the dust. Yet another teacher who's quit. Let's read a few more comments here. Top comment says, my school takes subs car keys. So they take the subs car keys so that they don't run away. That's funny as hell. That's funny. Do they take the keys for that reason? That's wild. This person says, how many people just walk back out when asked for their keys? I would never give my keys to a random person in an office. This has to be illegal. There's no way they do that for that specific purpose. This one says same. So I guess this is a thing. They take the keys. They take the keys because these kids are so unruly and out of control. Wow. You learn something new. You learn something new
teaching job today.
every day. See what else we have here. This commenter says people misunderstood ending generational trauma in quotation marks to mean every single thing you didn't like. Yeah, you don't have to do that. This is the result. Yeah, it's a soft generation. There's a soft generation with a bunch of soft parenting, bunch of soft people who don't like hearing the truth, who get their feelings hurt. And of course, if you've ever tried to discipline somebody or direct somebody who's constantly worried about not having their feelings hurt, it's an impossible task. It's impossible to do that, to tell someone the truth, to serve some coffee without offending them. Somebody else who says the bad parenting in this country is so evident with the behavior problem and low math and language arts scores. Somebody else who says gentle parenting has been widely misinterpreted and poorly executed. This lady here is 100% right. I think gentle parenting is a problem at this point. Doesn't mean you have to take out your anger and your frustration from work on your dog and kids. No. But there's some signs that people have gone too far. Somebody else who says, sounds like that's why the regular teacher took a day off. This person here says, gentle parenting is actually passive and permissive parenting. The tail is wagging the dog. So we have a female commenter here who says, I'm a middle school counselor, and this is every day in education without strong admin. Another person who says, teachers are stronger than the Marines. Somebody else here added, blame the administration for this. Here's somebody else who says, I'm thankful every day that I had an I don't care if you're mad at me, mom. It has made me a much more resilient adult. Yeah, man, me too. Me too. Me too. Shout out to the teachers, man. Shout out to the teachers. Shout out to the teachers. Teachers deserve some. I'm so grateful for the teachers I had, and my teachers loved me. You know, I think they may have hated that they loved me too, because I've always been kind of like a version of what you see right now, but you know, a bit too animated, not all the way a class clown, but enough of a talkative person that I got sent out a couple of times, man. And a lot of them, I think, understood that overall I was not a disrespectful young man, and I think that saved me, right? I didn't argue with people. I just talked a lot and made comments, and here I am now. Listen, I appreciate you guys checking out yet another episode of the Coffee Pod. Comment down below. Appreciate you. See you next time. I'm out. Peace.